Hi, I'm Erin of House McCarthy, first of her name, editor-in-chief of MentalFloss.com, protector of facts, and mother of cats. Welcome to Mental Floss Video, and did you know that the White Walkers in Game of Thrones originally had their own language? Fans of the TV series may know that a pilot episode was filmed in 2009. Eventually, about 90% of it was reshot and turned into the episode that aired in 2011. The White Walkers initially had their own language, and David Peterson, who creates the languages for the show, dubbed it Scroth. But ultimately, Scroth was scrapped because, according to Peterson, having the White Walkers actually speaking with subtitles would have been corny. For season 2, a sound designer created an ice-cracking sound that finally brought Scroth to life, without a language behind it though. Winter is coming, and so are many more behind-the-scenes secrets about Game of Thrones that I'm going to share with you today. Beware, this video is dark and full of spoilers. Casting Game of Thrones was no easy task. The roles of both Daenerys Targaryen and Catelyn Stark were recast after the pilot was filmed. Dany was originally played by Tamsin Merchant before Emilia Clarke was cast, and Catelyn, now played by Michelle Fairley, was originally portrayed by Jennifer Ely. That's why you never see Sansa and Catelyn in frame together in the first episode. Only Catelyn's parts of the scenes were reshot. Could Agent Scully have taken out some White Walkers? Gillian Anderson said in 2013 that she turned down a role on the show. Though she didn't specify which role, fans think it was either Cersei Lannister or the Red Witch Melisandre. Other people who were reportedly up for roles in the show include Mad Men star Jared Harris, Oscar winner Mahershala Ali, and The Hunger Games' Sam Claflin. Arya Stark was the hardest character to cast. Co-showrunner David Benioff has said that they found Maisie Williams while going through audition videos in a Moroccan hotel lobby with bad Wi-Fi, and selected her video based on a small thumbnail that looked promising. It took about 40 minutes to download, but it was clearly worth it. Veteran actor Charles Dance took his role as Tywin Lannister extremely seriously. In season 1, a scene required his character to skin a deer. He worked with a butcher to learn the skill so that he could actually do it while filming. Kit Harington, who plays Jon Snow, is a distant relative of Sir John Harington, the inventor of the first modern flushable toilet, which was created for Queen Elizabeth I. When asked about the family connection, Kit told Elle, quote, "That's 100% true. It's called the John Harington." Supposedly, that's where the slang term the John originated. As for Kit, he says he's just happy that people don't refer to the toilet as the Harrington. Sean Bean's season 1 death may have been shocking to viewers, but the actor had some fun with his decapitated head. In a Reddit AMA, he admitted that he kicked the prop around, quote, like a football. Speaking of character deaths, Game of Thrones has racked up a pretty massive body count over the years. Someone on YouTube crunched the numbers and estimated that a total of 174,373 individuals have been killed on the show in the first 7 seasons. As of season 7, according to The Wrap, there were only 5 episodes in which no one dies on screen. Fun fact, a study published in the journal Injury Epidemiology found that characters have a 14% chance of dying within the first hour of being introduced on the show. In terms of important characters, overall, open neck wounds or injury to an unspecified body part are the most likely cause of death, while burning is the second most common way of being knocked off. There's a lot of time to kill on the set, so the cast of Game of Thrones finds ways to amuse themselves. For Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion Lannister, that involves pranks. Specifically, he likes to stage his death and then wait for crew members to find him, sometimes for hours. HBO has released 2 official Game of Thrones themed rap albums called Catch the Throne. Method Man, Snoop Dogg, and Big Boy all contributed tracks. I mentioned language creator David Peterson earlier. He doesn't create languages like Dothraki and High Valyrian in a bubble. In 2012, Dwight Schrute was teaching Dothraki on The Office. As part of that, he created the phrase throat rip by combining an accusative noun and a transitive verb, something that Peterson hadn't considered. He liked it so much he canonized it and called it the Schrutian compound. Dwight Schrute isn't the only person, fictional or otherwise, who has made an impact on Dothraki. Peterson loves to include Easter eggs in the language. For example, the Dothraki word for eagle is Colvert, named after Stephen Colbert. He also chose Erin, his wife's name, as the word for good and kind, but maybe also because he watches Mental Floss Video? Game of Thrones shoots all over the world, but the most Instagram shooting location is Krka National Park, a popular tourist attraction in southern Croatia that's known for its stunning waterfalls. You may recognize the location from several episodes, including season 4's Breaker of Chains, where Arya and the Hound cross the Riverlands. Game of Thrones features a fair amount of gore, and the show's effects team is always coming up with innovative ideas to create authenticity. In season 1, for example, Daenerys eats a horse heart. For the prop organ to look right and have the appropriate toughness, it was created out of gummy bear material. That may sound good, but Emilia Clarke said it had a, quote, bleach and raw pasta taste. She ate 28 of them, and apparently puked a lot between takes. Game of Thrones owes much of the credit for its characters' iconic looks to costume designer Michelle Clapton. In what might be the greatest testament to the costume team's creativity, Clapton revealed that several of the show's luxurious-looking capes are made from IKEA rugs. Following this admission, IKEA created a set of instructions for how to turn your Scold rug into a cape. The show's weapon masters make hero weapons for the camera out of modern materials like steel, but they're too dangerous to fight with. So for those scenes, they craft blades out of either aircraft aluminum, which is strong and flexible and safer to fight with, or if the scene involves stunts or animals, out of rubber. An exception is the arrows. Aside from rubber tips, they're made just like the real thing. If they were made of weaker wood, they'd shatter upon leaving the bow. To create realistic movements for Daenerys' dragons, the effects team took inspiration from other animals. According to visual effects supervisor Sven Martin, they studied the wings and behavior of geese and bats. The dragon's coloring comes from animals like frogs and cheetahs, and when Dany is petting Drogon, he acts like a cat. And speaking of cats, Drogon reminds me of my cat Pearl. Can you see the resemblance? Sven Martin has said that the hardest scene he ever created occurred in season 6 when Viserion and Rhaegal were chained up underground and not eating. According to Martin, quote, "My animator and I put ropes around our necks, and our VFX producer held the reins as we acted out what it would be like to be injured dragons. We filmed the whole thing, and that helped us nail down the details." Sound designer Paula Fairfield uses many different techniques to create the sounds of the dragons, including Tibetan chants and vocalizations from Bison and her own dog. She used a jackhammer, screaming Game of Thrones fans, and dangling bones, among other things, to create the sound of zombie Viserion. I can't be the only person who wants a real-life dragon, but I have some bad news for the Drogon lovers out there. According to experts, the dragons in Game of Thrones are way too big to take flight in real life. The heaviest bird to ever take flight was around 150 pounds, and the largest pterosaur was 550, both way smaller than Daenerys' dragons. Just because the show takes some creative license with the dragons doesn't mean they haven't made a real impact on the world of science. In 2018, entomologist Brett Radcliffe made headlines for naming 3 newly discovered beetle species after Dany's dragons. He named them Drogani, Rhaegali, and Viserioni. Sounds like pasta. The whites and White Walkers are created using extensive foam prosthetics, which are glued to the actors in a process that takes hours. Creating a single prosthetic character requires 4 to 6 weeks and the work of 10 to 15 artists. Sometimes the show's behind-the-scenes team ends up in front of the camera. Many of the faces on the House of Black and White's Hall of Faces belong to the production team, and they use the faces multiple times. Showrunner D.B. Weiss has said that, quote, "There is at least 20 or 30 of me in there." Speaking of cameos, George R.R. Martin had one in the show's original pilot as a guest at Dany's wedding. But when Dany was recast, the scene was scrapped. He later lobbied for a less glamorous but probably more memorable role, a severed head on a stake. But according to Martin, quote, "Those severed heads are expensive. So unless I provide my own, I don't get to be a severed head." Welsh actor and stunt performer Ian White has played 4 roles on Game of Thrones. In seasons 1 and 2, he was a White Walker. Also in season 2, he played Gregor Clegane, one of 3 actors to play the role. Season 3 saw him as an unnamed giant, and in Season 5, he played the wildling giant Wun-Wun. To create Season 6's Battle of the Bastards, director Miguel Sapochnik looked to real-life conflicts, especially the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE, in which the Carthaginians circled the Romans and won. The sequence required 65 stunt performers, which is more than some films use. Speaking of bastards, it's hard to imagine Ramsay Bolton's death by dogs being any more brutal than what we saw on screen, but the original shot was actually dubbed too gruesome to air. Fun fact, the actor who plays Ramsay, Ewan Rayon, came really close to landing the role of Jon Snow. Cersei Lannister's infamous Walk of Atonement may have been painful to watch, but that wasn't Lena Headey's body you saw. Rebecca Van Cleve performed the scene nude while Headey did it clothed. The show's VFX team then merged the scenes together. By the way, Van Cleve beat out more than 1,000 other actresses to film that scene. She told Entertainment Weekly that, quote, "I never in a million years would have thought I would be in Dubrovnik surrounded by hundreds of extras and crew members throwing food at me. But it was amazing." Finally, with season 8 about to arrive, we're all asking, who's going to live and who's going to die? According to the authors of the study from the journal Injury Epidemiology that I mentioned earlier, the Stark sisters, along with Jon Snow and Tyrion Lannister, have good odds of surviving, while things are not looking so good for Cersei and Daenerys. Of course, Benioff and Weiss don't have to abide by the rules of science, so anything goes. And now your watch has ended. Thanks for watching Mental Floss video, which is made with the help of all of these nice people. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover, leave it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a like if you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.